Hi folks, Mawzilla here. On today's video I'm gonna recommend some of my favorite RPGs for people who wants to get into the genre, or if you are bored with your first person shooters or any kind of game you are used to play and try something different and maybe more slow paced. So if you're one of those or just want to help out my channel, please subscribe, like and share the video and leave a comment, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, at number 5 we have a fairly easy RPG to get into. The Pokemon series have been around a long time. Its gameplay on its core is simple. It's turn-based combat. You usually have a party of 6 Pokemon which you can change at any time to make your team as comfortable as it can get for you. Its mechanics can get very complicated if you get into the competitive scene, but for someone who just wants to begin with an RPG, I think the Pokemon series is a good way to go. You just have to understand the rock, paper, scissors mechanic. For example, fire is strong against plant, plant against water, and water against fire. And it's fairly easy to be overwhelmed by so many creatures to catch. But again, it's a good place to start, and if you're wondering what game is good to get into, depends if you're more into a good story and content. I say you should go for the 5th generation of games. If you're a Nintendo Switch owner, you can go for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and Sword and Shield. At number 4 we have the Mario & Luigi series. This game began on the Game Boy Advance system with Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, being the spiritual successor of, besides the Paper Mario, of Super Mario RPG Legend of the 7 Stars for this NES. With each game there's always a new gimmick to try. Well, except for the first one, the games are easy to get into because usually you're just controlling Mario and Luigi, and depending on the game you'll have some guest character for it. For example, in the second game in the series, Partners in Time, you'll control the baby versions of Mario and Luigi. In the third one, Bowser's Inside Story, there'll be times you'll take control of Bowser. There are 5 games in total, with 2 of them having the remake treatment, and you can have access to any of them on the Nintendo 3DS. These games are funny as hell. You love how these characters are written and the turn-based combat is super simple, and there's not necessarily any order to play these games, so you can tackle any of them in any way you want. In number 3 we have South Park and the Stick of Truth. This game is usually praised as one of the best licensed games of all times. This acts as a parody of many Western style RPGs and some JRPGs. The gameplay is top notch and also the difficulty is nothing out of this world. The Stick of Truth has the same class of humor as the show, and it involves the direct participation of its creators, Matt Stone and Trey Parker. There's a second game that I consider even better, but it has a grid type combat that I think it's not very novice friendly. So if you're into South Park and want to have a blast playing a game, the Stick of Truth is a full-blown good old RPG adventure that you can't miss. And at number 2, I like to recommend Persona 4 and 5. They're easy and difficult as the player wants them to be. With this JRPG, you can have up to 100 hours plus of game time. Very strong stories with very well written characters. Also turn-based and with a long story behind them. One can think that they're not easy to get into, but in reality is that none of these games relate to one another. By having a mix of a traditional dungeon crawling RPG and a daily sim life, you can make friends with a lot of also very well written characters with a different stories to tell. With its confident mechanic, you can form relationships with a bunch of your daily life in-game companions, so in dungeons you can upgrade different aspects of your characters. The Persona series is a must-play for any RPG fan, and also it can be relatively easy if you are not going for any completion process. And in number 1 we have Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. Historically, Dragon Quest is the father of all our JRPGs. They're not easy by any means if you are not familiar with the style of gameplay, which is simple as it gets: a level system, turn-based combat, upgrading your armor, weapons, etc. Characters with magic and skill trees. With this being the most recent Dragon Quest release, it's also the most vibrant and beautiful looking one in the series. Also the most easy to get into, with a cool story, a cast of characters to get to know, and its classic combat style, and also its strong story through video games. This is a must play for anyone willing to play a good RPG with a lot of content with hours and hours of playability. These were just some of my recommendations for people wanting to get into the genre. There's a ton of fun and powerful RPGs out there. Hope it was helpful for any of you. Well folks, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, subscribing, liking and sharing. Don't forget to leave a comment. Bye!